Hey y'all. I just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit today about things to consider before you move to Dallas. Um, I think trying something new is important, but also being prepared is important, and knowing what you're getting yourself into, at least having an idea of what you're getting yourself into, is important. So, one thing to consider, or should be the number one thing, is your budget. You need to think about where you want to live. Dallas is enormous. And within the Metroplex, there are so many areas, so many cities that you can choose from. And you can get an apartment, one or two, even two-bedroom apartment for like $800, but you have to decide if that is in an area where you want to live. It may not be the best area, it may not be the safest, but it might be what you can afford. So the internet is an amazing resource. You can look up apartments, and you can spend $2,200 for an apartment in Uptown or in downtown Dallas or in Lower Greenville, but you should probably read some reviews to see what these apartments are actually offering versus what they say. And if you have time or the ability to fly or drive from where you live or where you're moving from, I would advise you to come down here to see the apartments with your own eyes, because you don't always get what you're promised. And yeah, you don't always get what you're promised. You have to, see for yourself. The positive thing is that they have different leasing options out here. As you can do month to month in some places, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and beyond. But usually, the lower or the least amount of time your lease is, they do add a premium to your rent. So, again, something to consider with your budget. And from budget, I would like to talk about the cost of living. So, rent is one part of your cost of living. Um, but out here, you need to also pay your electricity. There are some apartment complexes where your utilities are all included. I have not lived in any of them, but they do exist. And there is a multitude of electric companies that you can choose from, which is foreign to me because where I'm from, you get the electricity in your name and you pay for what you use. Here, you have to know how much kilowatt hours you use, or what you think you might use. In the summertime, you're going to be using the electricity, especially if you're home all day. If you have children and they're doing remote school or homeschool, it gets really hot in the summer, and it does get fairly cold in the nights and early mornings in the winter. So they have all these different electric companies that you have to see what they're offering. Some have like free nights or one free day a week, or after a certain time the price goes down, but it is measured in kilowatt hours. Some are like 8 cents per kilowatt, 19 cents, and they have all these different tiers. It can be a little bit confusing. There are videos to see how to choose an electric company that could be useful. And then some of them have a contract, and you have to pay if you break the contract. So it's just something to look into. Here we do also pay water, sewer, trash, pest control. Those things also are on top of your rent. Also, in terms of cost of living, if you are looking to buy a home, something to consider is that while Texas does not have state taxes, which is awesome because you bring home more of your actual paycheck, if you are buying a home, I feel like they take it right back out in property taxes. The property taxes are very high. They can add five, six, $700 on top of your mortgage. So that is something to consider when we're talking about the cost of living. And the areas that have the better schools cost more to buy, period. You're not the only one who wants your kid to be in a good school district, and the home inventories are low. So it's really a supply and demand type of thing, and the home prices out here have skyrocketed in the last year or so, and of course gradually in the last few years. But because Dallas has so much growth recently, people are coming here, big businesses are coming here, people are looking for a change of life, they're coming. But the school districts matter, so you can find beautiful homes all over the Metroplex. But within the Dallas ISD is Independent School District, and that's how they're called out here. Within the Dallas ISD, they do not have a good reputation for their schools. Underfunding, poor planning, that lead to poor performance in schools. Also, Fort Worth ISD, similar situation where their schools are not doing as well. So then, when you're looking for great schools, you have to start looking at the surrounding areas. And then that goes back to you will be driving because you might work 30 minutes from where you live, but also you have to get your kids to school and you have to factor that in. Some areas bus and some areas do not. You might live close to the school and you still won't be bused. So that's something to consider with the driving. But back to the schools. Some of the better school districts are Northwest ISD, Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, Mansfield, Birdsville, Richardson, Allen, Plano. But these are suburbs. So if you're looking to live or work in Dallas proper, this adds to your commute time. But I would say to really look into the schools when we're talking about where you want to live, because they are zoned to your neighborhood. So you might want to live in, say, downtown Dallas because you like that high rise life, or you might want to live in uptown because you like the walkability, but the schools are not that great. So you have to consider that for yourself, unless you are looking into private schools, which there are lots of amazing private schools out here. Gas prices are pretty low here. February 2021, we are looking at gas around $2 a gallon, which is pretty cheap. Um, and since I've been here, I've seen it as low as 169 a gallon. Again, pretty cheap, and that matters because this is another thing to consider in Dallas is the driving. You will be driving. You will drive everywhere. Um, it's just a regular part of life. You'll be driving everywhere. If you want to go to the park and you don't live close to one, you'll be driving. Grocery stores, to work, to your friend's house, you will be driving everywhere. And you might live in Dallas and your friend lives in Dallas, but you might live 40 minutes apart or more. And people say they live in Dallas, but that can mean anything. You can live in Dallas proper. You can live in any of the surrounding suburbs. You might live in Fort Worth, which is part of the Metroplex, and it is humongous. So, in addition to thinking about driving everywhere, you need to think about how people drive because people out here drive crazy. And I'm from New York, so that's saying something. But the speed limit in some areas is upwards of 70, 75. That means that people are doing 100. What? So you just have to be ready for that, and not the safest drivers. And you're going at 100, you've never been here before, try not to miss your exit. If you make a wrong turn, that might add like another 20 minutes to your trip. And while you're driving, another thing is these toll roads. Sometimes you don't even realize you're on one, and you get a ticket in the mail. It doesn't penalize put any points on your license or anything like that. It's just like you go through these things, and some of them are clearly marked as expressways, but the toll roads are everywhere. You could just be driving, not necessarily on a regular street, but they're on the highways, and they might save you some time. And another way to save yourself some money is to get a toll pass. It's just like a little blue sticker that says T, and it saves you money on the tolls. You might not think you need it, but it's useful to have. Another thing to consider when moving out here is the weather. The weather is really bipolar. I heard about it, read about it, but experiencing is something different. Where I'm from in the Northeast, we really have a true 4 seasons. I feel like there's only like 2 here, like kind of cold winter and like super hot summer. And when I say super hot, it's like if you're gonna go do errands and or be outside with your children in the summertime, like you need to get going at like 8 o'clock and be home by 10, because after that the heat becomes unbearable. If there's a pool where you live, you might be in the pool sweating or roasting or wishing you were just inside because it gets hot, like 108. at the high point of the day, and at 9 p.m. at night, no sun, it's still like 98 degrees. And it's just different. So it's something to be prepared for. And then it does get pretty cold during the winter, especially early mornings or in the evenings after the sun goes down. And when it rains here, it pours, and it pours for like a week. So when you're driving around, walking around, depends on where you live, you'll see like a lot of, they just look like ditches, but it's for the drainage because it rains crazy here, and it's really to reduce flooding. And also there are hailstorms. So a lot of apartments offer some variation of covered parking or garage parking. If you have it in the budget, I would say to spring for it so that you don't get damage to your car during these hailstorms. With the weather, I would say that another thing to consider is the bugs. Everything is bigger in Texas, including the bugs. The bugs are disgusting, and they're everywhere. These are the biggest mosquitoes I've ever seen. I've seen roaches outside, inside. They're humongous. There are lizards on the sides of the building, which don't really bother me as much. The kids are interested in them. There are slugs everywhere. And in the summertime, all of the bugs are like on 10. They're everywhere. Like you have to slather yourself in all types of bug repellent. They're still coming. It might slow them down. And with the weather, you need to use sunscreen because you will be burned. It doesn't matter what color you are. I do not believe that because you are browner, darker, etc., you can't burn, because it happens and it's terrible. So just be ready and do your due diligence. And I'm not saying everywhere has all the same problems, but the bugs out here are different. And it's not that I've never seen one before or I've never been bitten by a mosquito, but when you get bit by something out here, you're not confused about it, and you have like a huge welt swelling up on your arm where you got attacked by a swarm of mosquitoes. But, that's a small part, but something to think about. I do thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know any of the things that you might have encountered in moving to Dallas and things that you would like to share. I'm open to suggestions, and I'll be happy to respond to your comments. I'll see you in the next video.